I just wanted to come in and to alive and start doing this every Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me. What I wanted to discuss today is why diets fail, and the 10 reasons why we struggle with weight loss. So I do have notes here that I wrote down, and just wanna make sure that I stay on point because we only have a very short period of time to address each and every one. So I'm just gonna touch upon one title and then just have a loose discussion about that. Please note that I will be releasing the list in my Facebook and also Instagram, just to make sure that you guys, if there's any confusion or anything that that was too quick for you, I can discuss. Okay, or sorry, I can disclose in Facebook. That way you can read. So the first one, weight loss is the result of habits, not the goal itself. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that that in order for you to continue to lose weight, specifically large amounts of weight, you can't just focus on, okay, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to focus on reducing calories. Something in your life has to change, even if it's, for example, you saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to eat normally as I am, but from 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. until the next morning, I will only have, I will not have food, I will just have water. That's a habit that you can implement and actually have it be successful in terms of weight loss. Two, we often expect results too quickly. Nothing happens too quickly. If you can imagine the people that we typically, or typically my audience have more than 100 pounds to lose. They have 300 pounds to lose. That's a lot. It's not going to take you a couple months. It's unrealistic. I do follow a gentleman called Billy Love, and he was talking about how it took him 10 years to actually manage to lose the amount of weight he did. Which seems, it is absolutely reasonable, because he does a combination of losing and then adjusting his physique, and it took him a long time to be that bulky. So he's doing things in reverse. He's not trying to lose weight, but he's trying to bulk up. We tend to underestimate how much we eat. That is, unfortunately, that happens to all of us. We do a lot of mindless eating. It sometimes doesn't work in terms of, you're watching TV. This happens to me where I'm eating while I'm cooking, I'm tasting. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all. But what does illustrate quite a bit is the fact that absolutely what happens is that you do underestimate what you eat. Regardless of whether you want to address it or not, we just do. We eat more than what we say we eat. Number four, we overestimate the calories that we spend when we go for a walk or where we exercise. So a lot of us actually use exercise to trigger a bigger deficit in our day. It really truly shouldn't be put in that position. You shouldn't put exercise in that position. What you should do is you should move your body to enjoy it. Also, you need to find a way to incorporate some aspect of weightlifting, even if it's 5 pounds, 2 pounds, to continue to preserve your muscle, because that's what you want to do. You want to preserve muscle. You want to lose the fat, preserve muscle. That's what aesthetically, it's what looks good. And I don't want to focus on aesthetics, but that's typically what happens is that and even further, if we're going to go even further than that, is it really truly helps when it comes to function. If you want to continue to walk, continue to get out of that toilet, you need to preserve muscle. Fair? Okay, so 5, motivation is temporary, very temporary. I remember times when I used to honestly just say, okay, I'm gonna lose weight. I'm very motivated. By week 4, 5, 6, motivation leaves the facility. You're no longer motivated. This is the reason why you have to start small and incorporate small things into your life in order for you to be able to support continuous weight loss. Because again, the people that I do help have like hundreds of pounds to lose. So because they need to lose hundreds of pounds, you can't be motivated for 5-10 years. It doesn't work that way. You typically is a pull and push of habits, and you get off the wagon a little bit, and then you have days where, or weeks or even months, where you are actually navigating holidays and things like that. So you need to have tools in your bag, in your goodie bag of habits that you use in order to support those very things, because nobody goes unscathed when it comes to actually not having holidays. We all do. We all have Thanksgiving. We all have families that will make things like greasy food and things, and please know, there's no bad. The food has no moral value here, right? So if you have a day where you're, for example, watching golf or watching a game, and you want a hot dog or you want something fried, please go ahead. Those navigations is what you need to counterbalance throughout your day. So that's why motivation is it's not easy to preserve, but habits are. 6, there's no single perfect diet. The diet that works for you is the one that you can stick to. If, for example, I'm not a proponent of carnivorous diet, nor am I a proponent of having very high protein. I will have protein, but you can't like I have protein. I focus on protein, but this has happened later on in my weight loss than early on in my weight loss. Early on in my weight loss, when I had 100 pounds to lose, I was focusing on just that caloric reduction. And I started to, by ensuring that I was doing a deficit on what I was eating. So I did have 4 or 5 days of no judgment recording of what I was eating, and I reduced from that. You do have calorie counters out there. I didn't want to necessarily go by that because of the fact that every time I did that, it wasn't for me, because it wasn't capturing how much caloric intake I was doing, like how much I was actually eating, and me going from 3,000-4,000 calories a day to 2,000 was completely unrealistic. That wasn't going to happen. So because it's hard to have an overhaul of your diet, and to not focus, and to like shift where you are everything that is enjoyable in your life gets reduced or deleted. It's not gonna work. It doesn't work that way. So so no diet's perfect, the perfect diet for you is the one that works for you. And the one last thing I want to say about that is that this is one of the difficulties of why actually diets don't work, is because at the end of the day, dieting is very proactive. You have to be the one to do the work. You have to find out what works, what doesn't work, what what you want for breakfast, what you want for lunch. Nobody can delegate that for you. And because nobody can delegate, it's very hard, because while you can listen to me, it's you who have to do the work. So it's pretty hard, right? Seven, our environment does matter, because, for example, I'll give you an example. When my kids were little, there was no way I was going to engage in exercise. Not because I didn't want to, or daily exercise. Not because I don't want to, but it's because at that time, my schedule was around the children. And when the children were little, I didn't know if the nap was going to be an hour, half an hour, 10 minutes. I didn't know. If the nap was 10 minutes, there was no way I was going to do anything meaningful other than maybe a walk for 10 minutes. There were days that my day would go by where I would all need to do is take care of kids. So understanding that in my life was something that is helpful in terms of what to implement. Make sense? Because if I'm implementing serious weight lifting for 30 minutes every day when the kids were babies, it was not going to happen. It was not going to be a habit I was going to be taking up. So you do have to sort of understand what's going on in your life in order to accept and not accept some information. Because if just walking is good for you, then let's do it, type of thing, right? Also, I want to talk again about the environment, but in terms of, for example, finances. So let's pretend that you're trying to lose weight, but you have a budget. You're not going to have do 160 to 200 grams of protein every week. It's not going to happen if what you're doing is managing your finances with the diet of your little ones and all these other things that are around. So for someone like that, for example, caloric deficit would work very well. And again, keeping in mind that while someone can tell you, oh, you need to stick to this protein and this and that and the other, it might not be right for you, because you have issues with your finances in terms of how to support your household, which is what you should do. It's not the last thing. Number 8, understanding nutrition information. Yes, so this one is a little hard, because there's an amount of things that that someone can say to you, and they can show you like the magician. They can flash a case study or some sort of paperwork that says that protein is very good for you. That's the macro that you need to really stick to. While that might be true, it's kind of not. Fiber is, but that's my opinion. Sorry, somebody said it is. Sure, but one could argue that fiber is. It's neither here nor there. It's a dissemination of information. It's that understanding that there is nuance in anything that you read that is important to understand. But even more importantly, when you have all these people saying yes, no, I think it's important to take a little bit of a step back and say to yourself, well, what is good for me in terms of how I would fare? Because there is such a thing as some people not able to digest protein, or other people require more fiber. Other people are not very lucky and they're more into like, and they have to have a carb diet. And I understand the confusion because it just depends on the different diagnoses. And I think I'm just going way off topic. So what I'm going to say is this, is that information has to be taken with a grain of salt. Any information that's flashed towards you. And it is always very prudent to either ask your doctor or ask a nurse or a dietitian of what would be right for you to take on in terms of nutrition. Number 9 is setbacks are part of the process of weight loss. So you could have, 3-4 months where you are going through you're going through your diet and things are golden, you're losing weight, you're on point with your calories, you're on point with your protein, you're doing your exercises, you're weightlifting, things are looking up. And then all of a sudden you have a vacation. And then the vacation is a couple of weeks and you come back, you have gained about 10 pounds and you cannot seem to get back to your, the way you used to navigate before your diet. It is reasonable to have that setback. What is not reasonable is not starting to go back to it, even if it's not just right off the bat, go back to your diet, even if it's an evolution of going back and reassessing what you're doing at the time. Because all things being equal, that when you're losing weight, especially that much weight, over 100 pounds, you always have to set up something, assess, reassess. If it's not working in 2 weeks, you have to reassess that, because from that you will implement other things in order to ensure that you are doing the lowest amount of calorie deficit. Does that make sense? So when you implement something, let's pretend all your breakfasts are going to look the same. Let's pretend. And you say, okay, I'm going to have high protein breakfast. So you're having that and you're not losing weight, you're not seeing any changes in your waist, you're not seeing anything, any markers that would indicate that you have lost or even changed your body. You have to reassess those markers that you put in your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and your exercise. You have to, because it only works when you see results. So because if you see results, that's what you stick to, the things that are working. Number 10, success is measured by more than the scale. Absolutely. So let's pretend you are like, for me, for example, 170 pounds, I tilt between 170 and 175 pounds. I had started to implement high protein, low carb diet, and started to increase the amount of weight I was lifting. So I went from 20 pounds to 25 pounds. And because I did that and I started also spinning, I saw a change in my waist and a change in my glutes, and okay, that's perfect. So what I started to do is measure my waist. So you start being, 34 inches, 32 inches. You see that change, but your weight has not changed. I was still 170, between 170 and 175 pounds. So weight is not the only marker for weight loss, but there's even more important things, is lifting your arms, getting up a flight of stairs without, having a heart attack. There's also getting up from the couch, getting up from the floor. That's something that requires practice. And when you are practicing, and when you are leaning out, and your fat percentage versus your muscle percentage is changing, you can do more things, because your skeleton is supported by your muscles. And so you can do things like, walk more. And those are real markers. I remember not even being able to get out of my car. And now I can get in and out of my car very easily. So that is a win, right? So I think it's very important also to celebrate those little wins. They're very tiny wins, in terms of, today I actually did a whole, push up, or I did a whole, like, I went to class and I did the whole class. It's just so important, because those are the things that you hold on to at the end of the day when things get tough, right? There's weeks that, even during Christmas, for example, right? You go through days that are just so tough, because you're going through things that you can't control, other people cooking, celebrations. There's no time for you to go to the gym. So those are things that you need to navigate. So it's 7:23. Let me see if there is any questions in the chat that I can address. I want to spend about 5 minutes to address any questions. I don't know if I answer Nordlander's questions. I hope I did. And I think everybody's saying hi. Hello. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's important to note that that everybody can do this. Really, truly, everyone. I was 45 when I started. I was 270 pounds, almost 300. And that's the weight that I can admit to. Does that make sense? Because I think there was a time that I actually stopped even weighing myself. And this was at the doctor's. So at the doctor's, I would weigh myself, and then it would be a depressed situation where I would just do that. He would give me he would ask me for lab work, and I would go and have a meeting with him. At the time, I think it was, I had issues with my A1, so my blood work, so my A1C, my cholesterol, I think, was also a problem. And I think my creatinine was a problem. So then what ended up happening is that I wanted to address those issues in terms of how do I make this better. And when I started to address each and every one, because it's one of those things that you go there, and everything is a mess. Does that make sense? Everything's a mess. From your lab work to the fact that this doctor's telling, well, you have to do, maybe we should start every 3 months because you're pre-diabetic and things like that. So it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, and because I thought at that time, I don't even feel well at that time. I didn't feel well. Because of that, I decided, you know what, I'm going to start. And that's how I started. I started with, in a non-judgmental way, very compassionate to me. I started recording everything I ate, everything. And once I actually recorded, I think it was 7 days. I did it for 7 days. I started to look at it, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna start with, I'm not eating past 7 o'clock. For me, it was 7, if I remember correctly. 7 o'clock, I wasn't gonna eat anything. So I would eat normally, but at 7 o'clock, I wouldn't eat until the next morning. That's how I started. I started that for, I think, a couple of weeks. And then after that, I minus 150 calories up from what I was eating. Now, keep in mind that, like I said to you before earlier in the chat, that I was actually looking at there's a calculators in online that you can use, and those kind of didn't work for me because I didn't have an understanding of how much I was eating. What worked for me, only going to 2,000 calories at that time didn't work because it was too restrictive. That's why I chose to do the non-judgmental recording for 7 days to see. And the reason I chose 7 days is because I wanted to include the weekend, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And the weekends, which are, for me, was the most, where I drank and ate a lot, right? So I wanted to capture all that and see how I can delete from there instead of using the calculator. But you can definitely find any calculator online to help you out with how much calories you should take. Okay, well, it is 27 minutes. I think I covered everything. If you want to know or have more information about my weight loss or any topic, I have a lot of videos on my channel. You can just go and look and pick the ones that resonate with you. And if they do, just check them out. They're free. They're based on my experience and based on what I have learned in terms of all, the process of losing 100 pounds. So, and I hope that it does help everyone out, because at the end of the day, I feel that information, especially accurate information or compassionate information, should be for everyone. Everyone is deserving of losing weight. Everyone, it is not for just rich people or people that have, other people helping them out. We can do it. We can do it. We can all do it. Okay, so I really appreciate you guys showing up. It's been an absolute honor, and I hope I did answer any of your questions. And I am going to be on live again on next Sunday at 7 o'clock again. I'll try for 7 and see if that works for everyone. I do see that there's quite a bit of people, so I'm very, very, very humbled and very, very lucky that you guys were able to join me. I really appreciate this, and I wish you the best, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.